Alright, so as you might imagine, it's a big pain in the ass to install a rooftop tent on a camper shell if you have the wrong camper shell. If you don't have a camper shell, I will reiterate right now, do your due diligence, don't buy the wrong one. If you want the fiberglass, at a bare minimum get ARE CX-HD. If you want to have other options, go to, AliExpress, for example, and look for camper shells for your options. You could often find a cheaper one than you would be able to buy otherwise. Like, you don't have to go all fancy. You could just buy a knockoff and still have the same result. So, one thing that was really important to me is to affix the tent to the camper shell. And so, I'm gonna start you here. So, Milford is the company in Australia that makes it. And the way it works is there's like 4 bars of sorts, and you're able to articulate the darn thing whichever which way. There's all sorts of points of tilt and height and all sorts of adjustments to it, so that you could more or less adapt it to whatever your application is. This is the company that I bought from specifically, Ocam. They're a distributor, so they're the ones that are dragging their feet. The latest thing that I've been told is it's going to be like another 1 to 2 weeks for them to even get it, and then however long it takes to go from Australia to here. So, but here you could see how it kind of sort of looks like on the inside of it. And obviously it's blocking the side access over here, which is a big problem. And so the way they have described, and I'm gonna show you a couple of images so that you understand. Right. So the way they have advised this to be mounted to kind of get the bars away from the window of your camper shell is to spread them out as far as you can. You could kind of sort of see it here and there, and then you could install this, they call it a 10 millimeter bar. I'm guessing it's 3/8 steel plate that goes this way. So you might be wondering, oh, okay, I'm just gonna go and buy it. Great. If you had any idea just how expensive those darn things are, a 4-foot section in this width, which is about 3 inches, is about $39. And so you're gonna need 2 of them, and that's already about $80, plus a trip to Lowe's or Home Depot in hopes that they actually have it in stock. And in my case, I wouldn't feel secure enough just having this. I would want to have the cross brace as well. Here you can see how they kind of sort of did it themselves. But like, if you actually go this route, I would advise to put 4 steel plates, 2 across and 2 horizontal. So at that point, you really cross it into $160 territory. And so that got me thinking about, well, if I buy the plate, I have to figure out where to drill it and actually drill it on a drill press and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, man. So I started looking. And this is where I settled on this. This is made by a company, well, probably not made by a company, but resold, Pofenze, Pofenze. And so the beautiful part about this is, if you look here, doesn't it look like a lot of the bed racks for rooftop tents? The only difference is that it's not a bed rack. Like, it has all the look and feel of it, minus actually being it. right? It has all the bolts, and lo and behold, they're showing a rooftop tent. Right? So my concern at this point, obviously, is it's a little bit longer and a little bit wider, but those dimensions are including the actual mounting, like this over here, right? Well, I don't need this over here. What I need is, I just need the actual cage, because if you put the actual cage on the camper shell, lo and behold, you could do two things. Number one, you could fix your rooftop tent to the crossbars, right, that you see over there, and then you could fix the entire thing to the rooftop tent, because in the contraption, which is this over here, let me see if I could get back to some photographs. This, okay, up on the top, this bolt over here actually protrudes from the top, and if you watch instruction manual here, you could see this bolt over here is what sticks out from your camper shell. So theoretically, you could put the holes right there, right through that bolt. So let me show you what I'm talking about. There. If you look here, those bolts could go right there, right there, right there. So that way, I don't have to drill any steel plates. I don't have to fiddle with anything. I could just attach this to the rooftop tent, because the way the rooftop tent is designed, you need like a T-bolt in there, and then it sticks down, and then you have to figure out how to mount this to something. So this exact thing is how people mount to their bed rails, except that traditional bed rack is like, you know. So this is the top portion of the bed rack. So my goal is, once I get it in the mail, what I'll do is I'll just chug those parts in those parts, because I'm not gonna need them for anything, and then I'm just gonna keep just that and put my roof rack on this. And the way this over here, this actually might work. Worst case scenario, I'll just chop the crossbars to shorten it this way, and I should be a-okay. I believe, like, if this is 56 to 58 without those doohickeys, this is probably less than 55, and the overall length of my camper shell is 55. So it's a win-win situation in that sense. All right, so here's December 29th update to this ridiculousness. I feel like I legitimately have been scammed. Now twice, really. This company exists, but the fact of the matter is they, talking about Milford, and they are resellers. They don't have any level of any kind of support. So I have tried whichever which way to get a hold of them, okay? Through this little tooltip over here. It's the same thing every single time. Sorry, we're not online at the moment, yada, yada, yada. They never get back to you. I have left them messages on email, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn. I have gone through the portal of trying to cancel the order, and there is no way to even do that. At this point, we are 2 weeks from the date of purchase, and there's really no update to anything. Now, in the initial purchase blurb, it says that I should technically be getting it 34 days from the date of purchase. The fact of the matter is, with none of them reaching back to me in any way, shape, or form, I just don't see how it would be scientifically possible to get it to me. Because this thing, like, let's just say hypothetically, the year rolls over and they just magically box it up and send this off. It physically still cannot get to my house because it has to go from Australia on a ship or a plane, probably a ship and container ship, go through the ports, get through the customs, yada, yada, yada. Ain't gonna happen. And then it has to go, judging by the previous attempt to purchase this, from New York all the way to Florida. Now, the previous package is still lost in New York ports. This is deeply concerning, to be honest with you. This organization, believe it or not, actually legitimately exists. But there's no way, in any way, shape, or form. Like, it's all professional looking, it's all this and that and the third, right? In case you're wondering how to, like, they literally exist. You know, they have an office front, they have the whole caboose, right? Like, if you go here, right, there they are. They literally exist. Like, it's an actual company. It's not like a, there they are. I think it's very unfortunate. The problem is, like, obviously this whole process in trying to order this stupid part, it has very severely delayed literally everything that I wanted to do. Very disappointed. Very disappointed. And, like, at least based on what they say, this is a product that they sell on a regular basis. Whether that's true or not, I have no idea. But I do find it very concerning that when you go through, your account and resolution center, there is, like, it allows you to enter the portal to file a claim or anything like that, but there's physically no way to proceed further. I am, like, this close to calling my bank and basically tell them to give me my money back, kind of deal. Very unfortunate. So I did think about alternative to this. One of which would be AREHD cap, but considering that I've waited like 4 months previously to get the cap to begin with, what I've been eyeballing is just different variants of what's available in the market. So this one is made by Overland Vehicle Systems. They're all about the same. I've had horrible luck with AliExpress, so I really don't trust them. What's available on eBay, there's a cap in there that cost about, I think, $2,500 as well. So this one actually has a storefront, they make YouTube videos. I have far more faith in the process. It's designed to support this and that and the third. I'm gonna keep this in as an option. Still have very low amount of hope for Milford. But yes, this is kind of the update. All right, so I feel rather stupid. Behind this is obviously my address. Just, anyways, don't pay attention to that. So this is Milford website. It still says tracking not yet available. Still says that it's dispatched, right? Lo and behold, I have something that showed up on my door just right now, and I figured I'd document it. So I have no idea whether the thing that I just got is from Milford or whether it's my long lost package from Ocam 4x4, also from Australia, because more or less it comes in the same box. So, let's just kind of boom. So this is the box that it comes in. It actually comes in this kind of box over here. This is the Loadmax. And this is how it's packaged. So it is very beefy. It has quite a bit of weight to it. Not like super duper heavy, but like heavy enough just to make you believe that you haven't bought garbage. So thick zip ties, clearly because the things are heavy. This and that and the third. Came with this. I'm guessing this is some sort of manual on how to put this thing together. So yes, I don't know what to do now. Because at this point, if this is the original order from Ocam, it means I'm gonna have two of these coming potentially. If this is not, and it came directly from Milford, as the label suggests over there, either way, my camper shell is coming from California on a freight truck. So yes, honestly, I don't know what to do, but this over here would have been my preference of choice, to be honest with you, because I already have the camper shell on my truck. I very much like it. This and that and the third. So yeah, I have a lot of thinking to do about all of this, but thought I would just document it as it literally just came to my door. Alright, well, I figured I probably should document this to some extent. What Australians lack in terms of speed of service, they kind of sort of make up with labeling and packaging everything. So first and foremost, as you might have noticed, it came in a box. Those two boxes are for something completely different. But in that box, inside that box, there was this box over here. And inside that box, there was this taped and everything. So first and foremost, everything is connected with very strong zip ties. And as you've noticed, they have numbers and pieces, and there's bags. So this is really good because I'm sure in instructions, because if they've spent this much effort into labeling, instructions are probably very good as well. The jury is still out, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna using snippers basically free up everything that I can, get rid of the plastic, yada yada yada, to see what I'm dealing with. So the actual part, this over here in the video, is what clips to the rail of your vehicle, you know, like where you would normally put C channels. So that would be like there on the tub. We're talking about, what is that? This over there, right? Like the camper shell, that is this. And then, you know, the arm obviously comes up, and then you have this doohickey over here, which is towards where the roof is. Now, I know it's fairly confusing, so let me flip the box. The benefit to that is you're able to rotate the metal sticks, which would be this part over here, to fit the profile of your cab and all of that. Here's a better look at the C-clamp mechanism, right? And you could rotate it and tilt it. And then the other portion that goes through the roof is this right there. So that piece is what touches the roof of your camper shell from the inside. Alright, so as I'm unpacking everything and putting it in the Milford box, so the piece of cardboard that was here was kind of separating two rails from the other two rails. So that's what that is over there. Bunch of zip ties. So here's what I've noticed just by handling the parts. Number one, obviously everything is labeled, as you might imagine. Quality-wise, this is kind of sort of thing that you would generally expect from the kind of thing that you would buy at put-it-together kit of sorts. And I was going to use Harbor Freight as an example, but I know it doesn't have the best rep in a lot of people. Now, I buy everything from Harbor Freight, never had any issues. So, one thing that kind of surprised me a little bit is you look at, let's say, this, right? It's like a very beefy bracket, okay? And, you know, so is this, which is the same thing. But then you look at the load bars, which would be the piece that goes to the roof. And now I'm gonna put my fingernail for comparison and size so that you understand. Assuming this is steel, this is way thinner than, you know, something like this. So I'm guessing they are anticipating that this is structurally sound enough to support the weight of something like a rooftop tent. I don't know what to say about that, to be honest. I really don't. But I guess we'll see, right? So this piece over here, just looking at the picture, is that piece right around there. So this is what enables rotation, or like if you could picture this in your camper shell, it mounts to the top, which would be here, and then it allows it to contour to the roof, kind of sort of like rotating about it ish. So I guess that's a project for me. I still have to figure out which direction I want to go, etc, etc, etc. But thought I could kind of show you what came in the packaging. I thought I should chime in here for a minute. I got parts laying all over the place. So instructions are rather useless. Not because the pictures are not right, but because the bags that have the numbers on them, they don't mean anything. The only thing that matters on the bag is this number. and this number is correlated to something on page 1 that doesn't correlate to the numbers here. So what I'm doing is basically following the tutorial right from Milford website and also their YouTube channel. And I'm doing it basically one part at a time times 4 because there's that. So I've already assembled 2 over there. Alright, so I ran into my first problem. The brackets are done and they don't fit the actual pipe. In the video, it tells you to take pipe and slide it into this, and no matter how hard you try, it just doesn't. In the video, it just beautifully and magnificently slides on it. So what's happening is the diameter of that is different than this over here. So I need to figure out how to make it fit. It's not that it doesn't fit, it just doesn't want to slide onto the pipe. Alright, well, I didn't want to leave you hanging in terms of how I was able to slide this in. As you can see, it goes in there. Hold up, let me reposition my phone. So the way this works is that, at least on this bracket, there's this bolt on the side and then there's this bolt on the side. When you loosen them to the point that this is barely affixed to that, it opens up that hole in here. So once you slide this in, go ahead and tighten this and that a little bit more so that it actually stays in there, because that's kind of sort of how you have to do it. Now here, I anticipate it would be this bolt over here. I mean, this nut and that nut. This is what you would use to adjust your rail to your bedside, and then this and that is what would open up this hole over here. So here's some lessons learned from this. Apparently their definition of loose is completely different than my definition of loose. You may have to play around with it, but yes, it is possible to get the brackets onto the thing. You just have to loosen it even looser than loose. One of the things that I found particularly confusing is that there's more hardware enclosed and included than there has to be, and I'm a little bit puzzled with why and how. Like, for example, there's these guys, whatever that's for. And there's multiples of them. There's extra bolts. I'm talking about these guys, whatever that's for. It also talks about including particular set of bolts that simply do not exist in the package. So, like, for example, these self-tappers are supposed to secure the pipe there, okay? And I'm guessing there as well. So however many they are, okay, I suppose. But there's something missing in the package. And I don't know whether it's supposed to be there or not supposed to be there. It is in the video. Let me have a look, see in the instruction manual over here. Of course, there's nothing in there. this nut. So what they're saying, at least in the video, is that right there in this hole, right there, that hole right there, there's supposed to be a countersinked bolt that goes right in there. So, but since we're talking about that, I'm gonna forget about it for a second. But what I am really confused about is that in the instructions, they're saying to leave this 0.4 millimeters above the roof, right? And yet the actual bolt, let me see if I could pick this up. Have a look how long it is. Like, what's the actual point of including bolts that are this long if they only want you to have this much of it sticking out? I'm really confused. So, my goal, since I'm gonna be mounting a rack to it, I'm gonna get those bolts through the roof and then extend them as far as I deem comfortable and kind of go with that. But it's just interesting. So there's certain things that I am not going to use. You may have to use it for your applications. So for example, if you have roof rails like Lear, ARE, topper and everything, that would go underneath your rail. But be as it may, I'm leaving my rails alone, and I'm basically drilling holes to put that metal roof rack affixed to all of this. But at least for time being, I was able to assemble all of this. All in all, with my lazy disposition, I would say it probably took like an hour. I'm half asleep, I'm tired, and I'm pretty sure you could probably, like, if you knew how to do this, like if you watched the video a couple of times, you could probably do it a lot faster. So my advice, get a rubber mallet for the end caps that go right there and in the back. Hammer those in. That's gonna be really easy. The actual, at least this one right there, 17 millimeters. So you can't really tighten it until you get it in the vehicle, but at least so that it doesn't fall off all the time. So just give it just enough crank, 17 millimeter socket. My next phase will be dealing with this at some point. I have higher priorities at the moment, but this is still very much a priority. So I'm gonna see if I could wrap up other projects that are ongoing in the background. But at least I got this. I still have no idea whether this is the first order or the second order or what and how, because neither one of the vendors have updated their shipping info and tracking stuff. So ease of assembly, if you're used to assembling things, this is really easy. Alright, so I've taken off the top of my existing camper shell in preparation for install of rooftop tent and the Milford bars and everything like that. So I still have to take off the brackets, but for time being, just put this off to the side. So the goal is, ultimately speaking, is to repurpose this box and repurpose kayak hoist somehow. So I'm less concerned about the kayak brackets than I am about this. But I'll have to see on a scale of 1 through 10 just how badly I want it over here. So what needs to happen now is I need to take my big giant metal square that's supposed to go on top of this and lay this on top of this just to see where I need to drill holes and if it's even feasible, and all this stuff. So, but one thing at a time, just kind of trucking along. Another thing I've noticed is on soft top, I'm guessing it would be the same thing for hard top. The ARE camper shell, which this is CX model, is actually lower than the roof of the pickup truck. I have no idea how. I've never actually noticed it. I guess my eyes are so immune to having seen it for so long. If you look at the distance, right, between here and there, but anyways, none that bothers me. But the metal bracket is supposed to be like elevating the height, and the reason why I'm even thinking about it is because the rooftop tent is much longer than this, obviously. So a portion of it will have to slide forward, but this is a soft top, and I very much like getting my top peeled back, you know, when it's nice and warm, especially when I go to the beach. So I know it doesn't fold all the way back. The only way I would really know is once I put the rooftop tent up here, to slide it backwards or forwards or whatever is the case, I have to open the roof and see how far forward or back I need to slide the tent. I anticipate it's going to be hanging off the back and it's going to be going there. So the bias for me would be to keep it to a happy medium. Because I know what you're thinking. What the hell am I doing on the tailgate of my truck with this thing on the top of the camper shell? Trying to make up my mind. So initially I ordered 4 of these. We're talking about this block bar. Okay, comes in a kit. There's 2 in a kit. You basically get 2. The load rating on these, allegedly 600 pounds. I very seriously doubt that, because the brackets that came with it are designed in such a way that they're supposed to bend, and lo and behold, in the reviews of the product, people were talking about the brackets bending, obviously because they're designed kind of like a letter Z. So, but the bar itself is actually quite nice. So the advantage of having a bar is that it is very lightweight, it's very easy to manipulate and navigate, and you know, it has a channel on either side, so that theoretically speaking, once I drill the holes in the camper shell, it will be very easy to mount 2 in the back, 2 in the front, and then slap a rooftop tent on top of it. The downside to doing this is that there's not going to be kind of like a 4-level support between the arms of the Milford brackets, kind of like a cage. Granted, Milford didn't design them to be supported in that way, but there is a video from one of their resellers where they've mounted a 10 mil steel plate that goes from the back to the front to give it that additional kind of stability, which is why, as a potential, I bought this. Now this is heavy as hell, way heavier than 4 of these, like legitimately heavier. Very bulky, and the only way to mount this here is by mounting that in such a way that it's not really, like, forget about instructions for it. I had to, so this piece over here is supposed to be going like this. That piece over here is supposed to be going like this, because that is actually supposed to be mounted there on a Jeep designed for that kind of stuff. But I thought, well, what if I could repurpose? So what I like about this is that this is tough as nails. What I don't like about it is that it's super duper heavy, and I feel like I'm really wasting it. And I don't know what decision to take. For time being, I just slapped this on top just to kind of get a general look feel. The rooftop tent, I think, is about as big as a queen size mattress, to get you an idea, so it will be covering this regardless. Mounting this is obviously super easy. So if I go with this, it means that my rooftop tent itself is going to become sort of like a stabilizer for Milford brackets, although it's going to be on the outside of this. I don't know. Sometimes you make purchases and you're like, well, I don't know if it's going to go this way, that way, or what. I don't have any problem keeping this for something else. This I specifically bought for the rooftop tent. Never mind the brackets because they're garbage. So theoretically, if I was to use this, I mean, either way, it's going to be mounted the same exact way regardless of what I pick. The spacing between the two bolts on the Milford bracket is about this, which is about 3 inches or so. Ish, maybe 4, something like that. And it would be like 2 holes here. One bolt goes to this, the second bolt goes to another one of these. Same thing here, and then 2 more up front. What I like about this versus that is that while it's far less beefy, or at least far less beefy looking, it's more sleek, if that makes any sense. Because theoretically, like, and you're gonna have to use your imagination here, but if I did something like this, know what I mean? Right? Versus something like this, which is going to be flash, I don't know, something to think about. The only advantage of this bar versus this is that theoretically I could mount something here. I don't know what I could hypothetically mount other than lights, but just has a neater, cleaner look to it. I just don't buy the 600-pound rating on it, to be honest with you. This is also rated for 600, but like the difference, like this is aluminum, this is metal. Anyways, I'll be back. Okay, so you're gonna have to use your imagination. I had to do a little prop over here. This isn't held in any way, shape, or form, but just to get an idea. So this is the Milford bracket, and one thing that I have found right off the bat is the fact that the ARE camper shell has all sorts of weirdness going on. So one of the first things is this roof isn't flat. My ranch that I had in my layer camper shells, it was all flat. On this roof, for whatever reason, there's like a little step over there. I don't know if it's coming up in the camera, but like between this and this, there's about ½ an inch difference. So this portion is lower by ½ an inch. So this is where the bar is. That's where you see the bolts, right? That's the that's this stuff over here. This, right? The way Milford bracket clamps to all of this is over here. Now, because of all of the shenanigans with the Jeep over here, the only real place where you could put it is there, which obviously, as you might imagine, will interfere with the window. Yeah. whatever. I was hoping it would be further this way, but there's really no way to mitigate for that. But as you see, in terms of drilling holes and everything like that, you could see it in the camera now since it focused. So the only way to really put holes anywhere, because of how this bracket is designed and how everything else is right where it sits. Which in turn, if you could visualize where that is. Okay, see that bar over there? The holes would come out right where this bar is, there. So, yeah, give or take, like there somewhere. Interesting. Very interesting. And there's really no other way to do anything about this bracket. I'm actually kind of speechless because if you think about it, right, like in every single camper shell ever designed here statewide, the rails to which everything clamps is always off to the side, not in the middle. I guess that's how they mount them in Australia, closer to the center of the roof. Interesting. So, this is how it would look. This is where it is right there. Ish. So this much of the window, you could still put your hand in there, obviously. But like if you have anything wide and big, it would be harder to put in there. So I guess you would have to like shimmy it this way. So because I have entire thing assembled, the only thing really left is just figure out where to drill the holes. Oh. And another thing is, like in the instruction manual, they talk about drilling holes from the outside towards inside. And then modify this bracket, like slide it this way or that way or whatever, based on. But I'm almost compelled to drill this way and then re-drill the hole from the top down. I don't know. Something to think about. In any event, there's going to be 4 of them. So this is 1, 2, this would be 3 and 4. And then however I decide with the top and everything like that. So, if you look at, just generally speaking, I mean, I don't really have any plans whatsoever to slide or put anything underneath the tent. Regardless of how I choose to mount, it would be about the same. But this just has a sleeker look to it, but I don't trust it. I don't know. The way this would be mounted though is once I'm done drilling holes and everything, whichever option I go with would have to be lifted off, affixed to the rooftop tent, and then rooftop tent gets lowered onto the bolts and everything like that. So because if you think about it, there's really no way per se to be able to secure the hardware. Like this up here is a T-channel. That doesn't have anything really. So I would have to figure out how to slide my fingers in there. And the only way to really do that is by affixing rooftop tent to it and then taking that with the rooftop tent and lowering onto the bolts. But then you run into a different kind of problem. you can't mount this to the bolts because there's nothing. Right. See what I mean? Crazy stuff. Because rooftop tent would be sitting on top of this, and there's no there's no way to get inside of here. I think what I need to do right now is just step away from this, because I'm having a creative block at the moment, and I don't want to make a wrong decision dealing with this. So I got to talking to my neighbor, and I guess two heads are better than one. We kind of cogitated on this a little bit, trying to figure out what's what. So first and foremost, this is what I've decided, and he decided as well, to be the best kind of solution to this kerfuffle. We're gonna be mounting this over there. That's the spacing, like between this and that is about I'm gonna say 3-4 inches thereabouts, something like that. So this would be just perfect, and the way this lays out is the inside brackets will actually go through this. So as you see, there's a conflict between the existing channel and the rest of the circus. So I have a couple of options. One is to remove the channels. Two is to keep them there. So if I was to remove the channels, it means that I'd have to cover up the holes. If I kept them here, I have to figure out a way how to space this thing. I mean, I'm gonna have to put spacers in it anyways, because the roof of this isn't horizontal anyways. So theoretically speaking, I could leave the channels in there. I just need to engineer whatever spacer there. And then what's gonna happen is this will be slightly lifted off the roof over here, so no rubbing, nothing like this. It will sit on the bolts. Second thing that we talked about was the two black doohickeys that are sticking out of the bracket. So my neighbor advised to remove that and actually use stainless bolts with a washer, which actually is a really good idea, because since I have to mount this anyways, there's a very high probability that the bolt is of a different size. I'll have to play with it. I mean, either way, I'm gonna be using those two black ones to drill holes up here, and then we'll just have to figure out and see. So this may move forward, back, I don't know, I'll have to play with it a little bit. Right now I'm gonna go drink coffee, get my bearings, and figure out what I need to do going forward. My goal today is to hopefully drill 8 holes in this thing, and then, you know, tackle whatever else I need to tackle. I don't know if I'm gonna mount this, probably not today certainly, but at the very least I wanted to drill some holes. In terms of the profile, the way this is, I think this is okay-ish, but my problem is there's really no way to like get anywhere at all, to be able to tighten anything at all. So I foresee this being used to drill the holes, make sure everything is square, and then I'm gonna have to attach this to the rooftop tent. I think maybe, and then just this becomes a permanent fixture on the rooftop tent so that I could actually lift it. We'll just have to figure that out as we go. And then the reason for the bolt is that I could unscrew it from the bottom, and the bolt will dangle off of this. Because if the roof top tent is affixed to this, I'm not gonna have access to any of this, period. So I thought I should record this segment as well. So after deciding on what to do with this and that, my next phase is to line up the holes with where the arms are going to go. So as I've mentioned in previous clips, the arms are going to interfere obviously with the window. Is what it is. I mean, you could still get to things, so I'll give you an example. But before I get there, I'm gonna talk about the tape. So I'm using just a regular masking tape. My goal is to figure out where the pole needs to be. Right now it's actually offset just a smidge. It actually needs to be where you see this little strip. I figured out where that is as well up front, and I'm gonna need to do the same thing on the other side. So the reason for that is, as you notice, have the bar, right? You could still reach, right? So this bar, second one, is going to be right there. So we probably have like 2 feet of clearance to get to things. Not entirely thrilled about that. At this point, there's no turning back. And I know it's kind of petty, but sometimes you just have things, you would just have to shimmy things. In any event, this is propped up with a 2x4 up there onto the ceiling. Yada yada. Oh, by the way, I'm gonna have to do something about this little marker over there. I don't want to drill through it. So I'll have to rip it out and relocate it. So there's going to be right there. So the reason why it has to be there is because if you notice, I have clamps, obviously, and same thing over there. And there's all this brouhaha with the clamps. So let me see if I could, like, this is a good example, right? I can't place that bracket forward of this, and I really don't want to be relocating my clamps because they sit nice and pretty. So it can only go here, right? And since it's going right there, it's coming out wherever that is coming out. In the back, it's a slightly different thing. So in the back, we have all the weirdness of the Jeep contours. It may be different on whatever truck that you have, but I had to measure that this is within where it needs to be, right? So like there's no point in drilling one hole here where and another hole there. Like I want both of the holes at the same. So because this is like a 1/2 inch, entire bracket has to be shifted that way. And that's the reason why when I propped this up in the way that it is, I then even had to further shift it that way. So that's where it really needs to be. On to other things. What I'm doing is, the kit for Milford comes with these, and this is actually supposed to, technically at least based on their video, to go underneath the mountain bar, like the rails that they have used. I'm not talking about this, I'm talking about the ones that, like those ones, right? And so the beautiful thing about that is this spacing is exactly what the bracket is, which is why you could use it to line up the holes. And so when you look over here where the hole spacing is, right, you basically adjust whichever way this is supposed to be so that you could then put this line over here. And this is just as a guide for me as to where the holes are going to be drilled-ish. It's not going to be on the outside, it's going to be over there. But at least now I know what's what. So this is where the bar is going to go. Same thing as this. And what's going to happen is once I drill the holes, I'm going to be able to move the bar just a smidge if I need be. I don't expect it to be like perfectly there, but at least with the spacing of the holes, I'm confident in being able to, you know, hard mount everything that needs to be hard mounted. So there's absolutely no way to drill the holes with any kind of drill through those holes because they're just a smidge less than 1/2 inch, which is what this is. So what I'm doing is I'm sliding this based on where I've marked to a place where this is supposed to be, you know, kind of like right. And then I'm taking my pinky finger, shoving it in the hole, aligning the other one the same way, moving it about. So functionally, if you notice, there's 2 dots like over there and over there. So what I'm doing is I'm just marking them with this drill. I thought about using a step bit. The problem with using a step bit, it's not 1/2 inch immediately. So I can probably use a step bit to actually drill those out. I'm not a huge fan of these. So this over here is about 18 years old. 18 years ago, I thought I'd be cool, buy once, cry once. So I bought a whole bunch of DeWalt bits, and I've been regretting that ever since because I've already replaced a whole bunch. In any event, at the very least, I'm able to mark them as you see over there, and then I'm just going corner to corner to corner, and then I'm peeling the white strips and just sticking them on the roof as you see over there, specifically so that I know once I take this off or move this anywhere to drill, that I know where the holes are actually supposed to be drilled, because if there's any kind of scuff anywhere else, I don't want to be accidentally drilling something else. So I decided to use a step bit instead. Step bit obviously cuts through everything like butter. By the way, I don't know what it is about bits. Over the last however many years, they just don't make them like they used to. So somehow I've just transitioned to using step bits a lot. Unless I'm like strictly doing, you know, wood projects. In any event, the beautiful part about this 1/2 inch step bit is that when this falls through, it means that I've drilled a hole of adequate size, obviously. So with it being marked, yada yada yada, it's going through the roof. So I figured I'd show you what that looks like. So I've rotated this. So by the way, like this up here is actually designed to go over here for Jeeps. There's like a bazillion companies on Amazon that advertise stuff like this. This comes and goes. I'm sure by the time if I was to link a product, it would be long gone. So this is just one of those things. Look for something like that. It's called Jeep Gladiator Roof Rack. That's it. And like this or equivalent of this pop-up. So what I've done is I've positioned these guys over here and that, not following instructions. So if you notice, this is flipped to the rest of that. Same thing with this. And there's a very good reason for that, so that I could affix the rooftop tent to that. This is flipped the other way so that I could put bolts, screws, and everything else and actually anchor it down this way. And then this is actually supposed to be more evenly spaced, but that's not what I want to do. So I decided this is for stability, this is what's being anchored to. So in order for that to get attached to the Milford brackets, that's the reason why they're there. So this is the meat and potatoes behind all of this. So those bars are supposed to be going this way, and as you noticed, I've rotated it this way so that I could actually do this. So this thing is rigid, it's tough. and rooftop tent will be anchored here and there to this. And obviously this is going to elevate it just slightly over this, so this is also very good. All right, let me go ahead and finish drilling the rest of the holes. Oh, by the way, since there's carpet, okay, what I'm doing is I'm drilling it down and then I'm drilling it back up. I'm drilling it down and then back up, because I don't want to be tearing up the carpet if I could help it. By the way, without the wind doors on your camper shell, this is going to be substantially harder. So here you could see that's the bit over there coming through the carpet right there, and wherever that second hole is going to be, and you know, that's where the bracket is going to be as well. Boom. I seriously doubt I'm gonna be finishing this project today. We're going through a cold spell in Florida and the sun is setting pretty soon, so my goal is to just drill them and then tape them, and then actually tackle the brackets tomorrow. And then I'm gonna be taking down this because I gotta go to the hardware store and get hardware to mount this properly. So I guess my eye was slightly crooked, and good thing that I stopped myself in time. What I'm doing is I'm actually using bolts that did not come with the kit in any way, shape or form, shoving them in the holes so that this whole thing is actually drilled properly. This hole here was misaligned. This one I had a concern about, but thankfully it was in the right place. So good thing I double and quadruple check. So what I'm doing is I'm just putting bolts. So once I have 4 bolts up here, everything over there is going to be lined up properly. So using a step bit produces a fairly clean hole actually, and surprisingly I did not drill into my ARE camper shell tag thing over there, so that's good. Whoops, right there. All right, let me get this bolt over here. There we go. And I'm just doing this so that it's all proper. There's no point in me having all 4 brackets. I just used one to plan all of this, and my goal is to finish out the holes on that side and then wrap up for the evening, I guess. All right, new day, right into my first problem. So I don't know if it comes on the camera, but if you look at the studs, they're not 90 degrees to center. Like this one over here on the right hand side is a little bit off kilt. So when you drill the holes, guess what? It doesn't fit. I have no idea if every single bracket is askew. It's functionally impossible to put this thing in there, and because this whole part has some weight to it, you can like wiggle it in there. So I foresee myself loosening these very things over here and sliding this bracket off the overall device and hoping to squeeze it in there somehow. I really don't have a lot of options per se. I could theoretically remove the the bolts, thread them, or put them from the top down and screw them into the bracket here, although I don't know if it's gonna screw or not. But this is a prime example of how and why assembling parts and whatever is contingent on the quality of said parts. So this morning I actually had to drill out these holes from the inside a little bit more, because at first I thought maybe that was it, and that was it, but the parts still don't fit. Put the part down. So yes, dimension wise, you know, the parts actually go in, but because you know what, it's frustrating, but I guess I'll just have to deal with it. The holes have already been drilled, obviously. Don't have much of a choice now. So I ran into a different kind of problem. I thought I could remove the nuts this way, but there's a slot on the bolts that prevents you from being able to do that. Now, I don't know if that slot is just somehow kinked a little bit. I could probably get this off with like a wrench. I just don't want to screw up the threads. But for time being, just to test out my little theory, I decided to like, see how this one is perpendicular and this one is slightly askew? That's what I'm dealing with. So I threaded them out, and I'm gonna try and thread them back in and see if that will work instead. Sometimes you screw up. Of all the thousands of holes that I've measured, I have no idea how I was able to screw this up. So I took the top portion of the bracket off just to see what the issue was, and I started going hole by hole by hole to make sure that everything is. So as you see, the bolts actually fit the pattern here and over there, but they don't do there and there. And those two are the two pieces that I was trying to test fit this whole thing with. So the hole pattern obviously is different. So if you look, I'm off by like a smidge. And same thing is over there. I figure there's probably a way to fix this. Just have to think about how to go about doing that. If you look through the hole, there's some sort of styrofoam material inside of it. I don't know if it's entirely fiberglass or what. There's obviously a fill-in in the central section with some sort of something. Theoretically, I could use a larger, sorry, sun is into the camera. Let me reposition myself. I think I could theoretically, you could kind of see how I'm off. I think I could use a bigger step bit theoretically to enlarge the hole, I guess, maybe. But the thing is, like, I don't know which hole is wrong. Is it the first one or is it the second one? I have to be super careful, because if you remember on the actual bracket, my guess is it's probably the back hole over here. As you see, it's slightly off the, right there. I have to look at the actual metal bracket to see which hole I could actually slide side to side and which hole I could slide forward to back, just to be sure which hole I'm modifying. And same thing goes to that one right there. I think it's very unfortunate, but I mean, either way, this didn't fit into those right off the bat, because this bracket is crooked. So it's like a double whammy of things going on at the same time. Personally speaking, I'm not a huge fan of having threads in the actual part. I mean, I get why they did that, but like it doesn't give you any wiggle room of any kind. So if the threads are threaded wrong, then this will always be an issue as well. Alrighty, so I cogitated on this a little bit, and I opted out for use of a Dremel. I have horrible luck with regular Dremels. I've been using a Walmart branded one, and that hasn't failed me yet. In any event, what I'm gonna do is, as you see, like this is what's happening to the hole. In this case, the hole is actually shifted further out. Let me see if I could focus on it right there. My goal, because using a step bit is just going to enlarge existing hole. That's not what I want. I want to be able to this way, like that way over there. What is it with new iPhones? They don't want to focus. So what I'll do is I'll keep taking little small chunks out of it. So I looked at the frame, and I figured out which hole needs to move based on what hole is doing what. And I'm gonna have to do this from the inside and the outside. So I'll just chip away at this guy over here, make sure that this part actually slides, and then I'm gonna do the same thing from the inside to the same hole, shimmy it this way with the same exact purpose, so that the bolts actually slide through that as well. So this hole is going to be larger, obviously. I'll have to deal with it as it comes, I guess. The same thing with that hole over there. You know, like, I have nobody but myself to blame. But the thing is, after drilling like a bazillion holes in my life, I have no idea how I screwed up 2 of these. So one of the biggest problems is that you can't even use the part as a reference for anything. But I've used the template doohickey that came with the kit, and I guess it was somehow screwed up. I have no idea how, but anyways. Alright, so not my proudest moment, but I elongated the hole, as you see over there. So whatever material that's in there, right there in the hole, but at least this way you could see that it fits. So that's good. So now I just need to do the same thing from the inside to make sure that it also fits. And then repeat the same thing over there. So this is how it was supposed to have looked originally. You know, elongating the holes. You could still see, like, see how this one is screwed. Like, you know, half of this problem is not me screwing up. So I will take ownership of me not drilling the holes, but Milford, if you guys are watching, knock it off. This is completely... So, here's why that problem exists in the actual bracket. As you see right there, okay, right there, there's a nut, and there's this. They have put threads in this, right there. So, the actual bolt screws into this part, which, theoretically speaking, if it was one bolt holding this one plate, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But the problem is, if you, for some odd reason, during the manufacturing process, screw up the angle with which this part either the part itself is askew or the thread, which is probably far more likely, was drilled at a different angle. If it's off by a smidge, it's not going to be perpendicular to the part. So this bolt right there goes into that thread right there and comes out crooked right there. It's off just by enough to make the template for drilling the holes weird anyways, just so you know. Now, very unfortunately for me, I've used this exact part with this screwed up bolt as my template for everything. So while this is a victory to me, it also kind of sort of feels like a hollow victory of sorts. It's a problem that I shouldn't have had to deal with in the first place, but whatever. So one thing that I could tell you, that it would be physically impossible. I don't know, maybe it could be possible on the other bars, but certainly this one over there, the strategy would be to align this and stick it in the hole, and assuming the other ones are crooked, which I don't know if they are, I haven't looked at them in that close detail, but probably the best thing to do would be to just affix this part to the ceiling and then slide that part into there, if they are all crooked. Because in the video install from their website, it just shows how they seamlessly put the holes in and, you know, slide the part in. Well, in a real world application, that's just not the case. Alright, so I ran into problem number 2. I don't even know how to describe this. So I have no idea if in Australia they have Jeep Gladiators. I really don't. And they're not really listed on their website. However, it's a universal part that's supposed to go for trucks, and they have trucks, whatever. So, the way this is designed is it clamps on right over there. This part on the bottom slides, I'm talking about this one, slides up. These bolts get tightened. Then this bolt kind of holds that bracket in there. This is merely used for just double checking and quadruple checking, right? So that part slides up, right? This part, despite having holes, doesn't really serve any purpose. I'm talking about the holes, but this rests there. The part is square. The camper shell is covered in carpet. I don't know, maybe after I tighten things and whatever. So if you notice, this bar is not vertical. And because it's not vertical, the entire part is slightly askew. And because the entire part is slightly askew, see what's happening over there? So that is supposed to be sticking out here, which is not. Now, granted, a vast majority of this pipe is in that tube. But this is just an example of how this so-called universal application isn't so universal. Because as you can see, everything about this is already at a weird angle. So you might wonder, okay, well, how would it have been designed? Well, if you take this and slide this here, theoretically speaking, maybe in that application it could probably work. I don't know if it would. Hard to say. I have a atypical application of my engineered solution. So, but like even then, if I drilled the holes here, I wouldn't be able to use the bracket that I have. Talking about the one on the roof. So it's like a catch-22, but you get to discover all these things as you are working on all this stuff. So I think as I tighten things, it may become a little bit more square. Maybe, hypothetically. I don't know. I would certainly hope so. I'm not that worried that it's not like all the way to the end, but at the same time, I kind of wish that it was. So I'm gonna see if I could massage it towards the end somehow, maybe, possibly. So this is fluid, but as it's in its current configuration, this doesn't move anymore. So, yeah. But this is kind of sort of how it's supposed to be. Like this over here is adjustable, but you're supposed to loosen this bolt and that bolt on the other side, and this is supposed to like rotate like that. I guess in Australian utes, as they call them, it's like a mix between like think Subaru Outback with a camper shell. That would be like a ute. But Subaru Outback technically has, so if Subaru Outback was a pickup truck, you know what I mean. So theirs actually goes on an angle. I really don't want to be putting angles here because I don't have any way to handle this otherwise. But interesting, isn't it? Alright, well, since I'm recording the good and the bad, here's a bit of good news. As you see, I've been able to force it further. So the way this works is I don't even know like where you're supposed to technically start tightening what and the how and the what. So if you plumb everything to the right angles, then it's actually right where it needs to be. So in the previous clip, I may have been a little bit too I'm just frustrated with myself over holes and everything like that, but whatever. So here's my other dilemma. This will get tightened in all sorts of ways. Okay, great. The bolts that are sticking out right now, let me climb up in there just to show you. Over here, right, those ones, my preference would be to leave them as is, like this. The problem is, once I bolt the rack to the bolts, like just imagine that there's 8 bolts, like 2 and 2 and 2 and 2. If the rack is here, there's no physical way to take a rooftop tent and bolt it to the rack, because the rails on the rooftop tent are going to be somewhere there-ish, sort of, kind of, I guess somewhere. And there's really no way to take, unless by some miracle the space in between the rails would be like this and that over there. There's no way to put a nut on anything, and like I don't have any kind of tool that you could bolt something like 10 inches that way in the C channel. It's just physically impossible. But I wouldn't know if that's the case until I put the tent on top, and it's like a catch-22, right? You know, do you put the rack on the tent and then put the tent on top of this? Mind you that the rack plus the tent are going to weigh about 200 plus pounds. So while it's going to be dangling off of a crane, I might have just a smidge of a, you know, wiggle room of sorts. But still, like, the most logical choice would be to fix the rack to this and then somehow figure out how to fix the rooftop tent to the rest of it. I just don't know how to do that. I don't have the tools to tighten a bolt, and I know it's hard to imagine. So okay, let me see if I could explain that in a better way. Alright, so you're gonna have to use your imagination. Where you see stickers here, that's the front of the camper shell. Right, so this rack is laid out exactly how the camper shell would be situated. Okay, we're on the passenger side towards the rear of the vehicle, rear passenger side. Right? So this rail is entirely for stability of the entire thing. There's no way I could theoretically move this on the inside, but then this whole jog is going to look weird and whatever. So that, mind you, like this entire thing isn't assembled in the way that it was supposed to be based on the instructions. I specifically assembled it based on what I needed. This is positioned in such a way that the bolts that I've been talking about all this time are going to go through the holes. Great. It's very easy to fix this to the bolts that I was talking about. The problem then is, how do you fix the roof rack to the rooftop tent? The rooftop tent is going to go like that, and clam is going to open up this way, like, because it's a clamshell, right? Like this. It has to be affixed to the rack here and in the back. Spacing is about 4 point something feet, more or less. And I've checked with the manufacturer and they said that that's okay. Here's the problem. The problem is this channel, like this little hole in the C channel, is flipped upside down that way. That's going to be more or less flush to the roof of the camper shell, which means that in order for me to take a T-slot with a bolt that goes down, that's supposed to go through that, I need to somehow, in this channel right there, down that channel that way. Okay, if I was to lift this way down there, somehow have a tool that's capable of tightening a nut in this very, very small, slim channel. And obviously that's not humanly possible. And that's the hitching the giddy up, isn't it? So my only other option is to fix the roof top tent to the rack and then slide the rack down. But that introduces a different kind of problem. Because of the whole space in brouhaha, even if I put a bolt here just dangling down, it's gonna be a functional nightmare trying to thread that bolt into that whole Milford mechanism. I mean, I'm already having all sorts of issues, and I don't want to introduce bigger issues, because at least right now I have room to deal with the issues. This bolt is going to be wedged between the rooftop tent and well, the bracket. So I'm sitting here trying to come up with viable solutions. To see what my options are, to see what I could do. One of the other things that I could do in theory is to adapt some sort of C channel to this, so that I could have a room on my rooftop tent to actually be able to slide rooftop tent to the top of the C channel And I could probably get by just buying one C channel and just cutting it in two. And C channel would be bolted to this, theoretically speaking. And then it would be fairly easy to get the rooftop tent onto the C channel. So as you see, this is somewhat of a dilemma. So those of you with eagle eyes watching this video probably spotted a massive screw up on my part. And this one, I literally have no idea how I did. Holes here and holes here. You could see how the distance between this ridge and that is about a knuckle. So here's the problem. All of the holes I drilled properly in terms of their spacing on the rack. Somehow the rack got moved by a little bit. So what's happening is this row of holes and that row of holes should technically have been moved this way by whatever distance. Like an inch, half of an inch, I don't know, probably close to an inch if I had to guess. But honestly, I am at that point where I'm not even gonna bother. While this is yet another screw up on my part, for the good and the bad, it's not that big of a deal. Because of how the railings are, you could actually move the rooftop tent, you know, left and right, with whatever bias that you want, etc., etc. So, but this is just another little thing that I've noticed. I was doing some thinking, and I'm like, wait a minute, something is amiss here. The holes are shifted. In a sense. That being said, maybe it's even for the better. There's a very, very high probability that the ladder for the rooftop tent is going to be here. And the further out it is, the further I am away from the glass, meaning that there's no possibility of breaking the glass. And maybe there's something good will come of it. Who knows? All right, back from the hardware store. So this whole saga continues. You know, it just keeps checking more and more negative boxes. So what I've learned is either in Australia they use a different thread system to metric system, or this is a proprietary thread on the weird studs over here. Because the things that should have fit didn't fit in the slightest. Nevertheless, you're gonna have to use your imagination. I just kind of put this here for reference. So here's how that's going to go. This over here, I'm trying to, let me see if I could do this number. There we go. Maybe the other way. Well, anyways, you're gonna have to forgive me with the light. So this is the inside of the camper shell, followed by the camper shell. On top of the camper shell, there's going to be this gasket thing that came with the kit. Then I'm putting a washer. Okay, then there's going to be the rack sitting on top of the bottom washer. Then in the rack, like the bolt comes through here somewhere, right? We have another washer. we have a lock washer and another nut. So this is a 7/16 stainless steel washer, not a 1/2 inch, 7/16. This is a 1/2 inch lock-in stainless steel washer. This over here is a really bizarre, weird thread. It's like 12 by 1.25. As rare as you could possibly get. Because the standard threads and everything like that were either too fine or too coarse and wouldn't bolt onto that. So this is 12 by 1.25. And my advice is, if you do pick this out of the box, screw this onto the bolt. Screw every single thing onto the bolt. Because in the box, in the hardware store, there were a whole bunch of nuts that didn't belong to that particular box. So, alright. So, second thing that I would like to address is my whole dilemma with mounting what to what and how. I've done some soul searching, and apparently they make extra long ratcheting wrenches. I do have ratcheting wrenches, I just don't have extra long ratcheting wrenches. Theoretically speaking, I could figure out how to put a nut in there. So the most logical choice then would be to mount this to my pickup truck and then mount my rooftop tent to this. That way I could, finish this whole Milford nonsensical exercise that I'm doing and put this behind me. I don't know if Milford brackets are like truly worth it, like for the amount of hassle that I'm going through. I mean, like it's a catch-22, right? I already have camper shell. If you in the audience do not have camper shell, I would very seriously advise you to just buy a steel camper shell where you don't have to do any of this. But be as it may, I have a fiberglass cap, and there we have it. Alrighty, so process continues. As you see, I got 4 things here installed. I have not drilled them to put the self-tappers in there, and I have not secured this over there on any of them. I've secured everything here, with exception of hand tightening this just to give it some level of support, because those things keep popping out. The crazy part is considering how difficult it is to get them in there, they fall out like you wouldn't believe it. So you might have to turn yourself into like an octopus while trying to deal with all of this. So a couple of things I've noticed just by messing about. You're gonna need some tools, obviously ratchets and everything like that. And I also have an electric one. So this one was used to get these as high up as I could, and then I would hand tighten. This goes all the way under the lip, and then what you do is after it's done, you tighten those bolts over here. Up here on the top, let me climb this is what it looks like from the side. On the top, what I've done was put the foam doohickeys that came with the kit. I put washers on top of the foam doohickeys, And those things actually have like a weak adhesive to them on both sides, top and bottom. I think what I'll do, once I put the rack up here, I'll actually remove the top as well, maybe. I don't know if I should really. Like, if I don't remove it, it's not gonna change anything. You know, the whole point of that is to hermetically seal the holes. So, I don't know. But as you see, I've had just enough of those stubby things sticking out, just enough to get the rack on top of them. And what I'm finding is, as I'm hand tightening them, some of them actually wiggle out, like that one over there in the back. They all did, so I had to go. That's actually the only one that I haven't done it to yet. So my goal is to put a rack on top of this, and then put another washer, a lock washer, and then a nut. And then I'm gonna be able to tighten other things too. Well, unfortunately, it couldn't be this easy. Although from every angle, from the ground level, this thing looks ridiculously awesome. One thing that I've discovered is the holes, surprise, surprise, don't match the studs. The studs are a little bit bigger than the holes. And this one here, not only did I screw up drilling it, I also screwed up keeping it in line. And again, I have no idea how I did that. You know, I'm like, at this point, I'm not even gonna fret. So now what I've done is, a long time ago, I bought at Walmart for $1 nail polish, and I've been using it to mark things. So like, here's a good example. This is what I need to enlarge. So whatever size hole that is, it's not ½ inch. It's ½ inch minus a smidge. So I don't know if the threads are bigger than a ½ inch hole or what the case is. Either way, I need to enlarge. So for all of the holes, I need to enlarge them just a little bit. And then I'm going to use a black nail polish, another one that I bought for $1, to kind of paint over it so it doesn't rust. So all of those are fine. The one that I have an issue is this. So if you notice, I marked it on one side. Yeah. So that's the side that I need to enlarge, preferably. I have no idea how I'm gonna do it. Maybe I'm gonna pull out my little trusty Dremel. We'll see. But it just can't be that easy, can it? So, in a rather cruel twist of fate, I've tried everything in my arsenal of tools, and as you might imagine, trying to do this job safely, and I'm also trying to do this job in a manner that isn't going to destroy the rest of this apparatus. So I tried a Dremel, I tried a step bit, I tried this was my best stab at it. I'm just going to admit defeat for today and sleep on it and figure it out another day. The problem is the biggest metal drill bit that I have is 1/2 inch, and I need one size more. The 1/2 inch, it, you know, like, it has the spiral on it, and so what it wants to do is, you can't even use it to enlarge this like you normally would. You know how, like, you could wiggle the bit just a smidge? It just goes right in there. So it catches on to, like, this spacing up here is less than half an inch, and the bit just kind of goes wabba in there. So I've tried everything, much to no avail. I have to figure out how to do it safely, because the last thing that I want is to break anything, starting with my body and ending with this here part. The worst part about this is that all I need is to just clean out the hole just a smidge. So maybe I need to invest into like a round file or something, because a file is, at least I get control, but I don't have a round file. Maybe that's what I need to get. Alright, so I wanted to record this while this is still fresh on my mind. As you see, this is finally over there. I have not screwed this in, bolted this in, tightened anything. So this is like the 5th or the 6th time that this thing is coming from the ground onto the roof, drilled, re-drilled, drilled again, being as mentioned in the previous videos, I've had to tackle this problem over here with the slots being of different size to the hardware provided. So I had to ream those out, right? And you would think that you could just grab a drill bit or maybe like a step drill bit. No. I wanted to do it in the safest way possible, and I tried different things and different whatever. Didn't work out too well, so I ended up going to Harbor Freight Tools. Let me climb up in here for a second. Yeah, there we go. So I had to go to Harbor Freight Tools, and I had to purchase it's called a stepless drill bit, and they come in different sizes. In the kit there's like 3. So the way that worked is I was able to just enlarge every single hole up here in this rack, and that's what I had to do. So that corner in the back over there, because of my drilling holes in the wrong places, so I had to adopt a slightly different strategy. I had to whatchamacallit, I had to drill this out only on one side of the slot. That's basically what that was. But as you see, I was able to finally get this in, and that's true on all 4 corners. So the way this sits right now is top of this sits on top of that. So that provides some level of support. Not that it matters much. And then the back of it kind of sits over there. It doesn't really provide any kind of support at all. Is what it is. Alright, on to the bad. The things that I've discovered. So by the way, like reaming this out, I'm not happy with how this whole thing was, but at least it's done, so whatever. Now on to the bad. If you think for 1 second, and this is independent of this piece over here, if you think for 1 second that it's going to be easy to install the actual Milford bracket, you're mistaken. So let me get downstairs for a second. Put you down. Okay. So every single Milford bracket, comes with that, comes with this, and obviously the piece over there, and then the piece over there. When you put this through the hole, this has a preponderance to keep falling down, obviously, because it's weighted. So then what you do is you tighten this inner bolt and that inner bolt to secure the vertical piece. And there's still a lot of droop in here because you're not really having, tightened anything per se. So this is constantly falling out from the holes. And that is one of the most annoying things that you could deal. So the way I tackle that is I've taken a 2x4 to jam it right there-ish to kind of prop this up as high as I could. Okay, that aside, I've discovered a really humongous design flaw with this. I can't believe I didn't see it during the process. So let me walk around here, sip a cup of coffee, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, this is what's holding this bracket over here, and the same kind of deal is over there, right? Do you not see what's happening here? There's nothing, and I mean nothing at all, that holds this piece against anything at all. So what this means is that once you get to tighten the bolts, the only thing that holds this entire mechanism is you tightening this bolt and that bolt over there and drilling self-tappers into this tiny hole, that tiny hole, and there's two over there up on top. This is such a stupid design. Let's just kind of focus on what's happening here, right? A rooftop tent obviously weighs 170 some odd pounds, or so they say, plus this piece over here adds additional, right? So while the bracket is allegedly designed to handle the weight by more than triple that amount, or double, or whatever it is, it's way beyond capacity. This is a severe design oversight. Like, there's literally nothing. Like, I refuse to believe that a single tiny self-tapping screw that goes over here, plus the friction of this, is going to be good enough to hold a rooftop tent and everything else. If you think about, like, when you go off-roading, right, everything is going like this, right? How did they not think of this? Like, what in the actual, like, this is just stupid. What I'm expecting there to be is an equivalent, at a bare minimum, let's be honest, an equivalent of the hitch pin that you would see on a regular vehicle. Know what I mean? Like one of these or something. You know, something beefy, something that's like 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch thick, that slides like that and secures it there. Because since there's nothing that's holding it here. Now, obviously, tomorrow, as you see, the sun is setting. By the way, this is like way further from the previous clip. So this whole dog and pony show has been going on for quite some time. Tomorrow, when I tighten everything and put the self-tappers in, I just want to stress the very important part about this very thing over here. I'm not okay with it. Doesn't inspire a lot of confidence, to be honest with you. It really doesn't. Like, this is the, like, I swear, this is a design flaw. Like, a legit design flaw. It has to be. I have no idea why they haven't thought about that, and I think it's very, very important to mention this. Right? Like, here, let me zoom in on this. See, like, there's nothing that's holding it there at all. There's nothing that's stopping it from sliding down. So, I mean, it's not like it's going to fall, right? But what that device is doing, it's really not holding it against the bed rail. the bed rail would be the horizontal piece where you see the 2x4s goes over there. I'm talking about this. It's not being held by this. It's being held by the friction of the 2 bolts plus some self-tappers. I just don't like. Okay, so with this over there, obviously I could put something over there like a 2x4 or 2x6 or something vertically to prop this up. I can't do that in the wheel well. It's just physically impossible. I will use obviously equipment to tighten everything as hard as I can, but I just thought that this is like such a huge oversight that is absolutely worth mentioning. And it didn't dawn on me until I kept fidgeting with all this stuff and they kept falling out. So here's what I think about this so far. By the way, like, this is moving things along significantly. My goal for tomorrow is to obviously tighten everything here, make everything, solid and just like how it's supposed to be. So that to some extent the rooftop tent could go on top. Now I have purchased some tools to slide in this little hole over there as far as possible. I think it's like 14 inches. So I assume on the rooftop tent the rails are not going to be further than 14 inches from this side over here, and same thing on the other side. So I'm going to be able to ratchet it. So the rooftop tent is going up, that's for sure. But this, the problem is, like, there's very, very little that you could do to improve this. There's almost nothing that you could do. Maybe drill a hole here and put like a bolt like that, sort of like a pin. But geez. So you might be wondering, well, if you tighten this enough, right, shouldn't it theoretically hold? And theoretically you'd be right. But here's the thing. Where's my... So this over here is, I believe it's 17 millimeters, right? Okay. And so just to mount this over there, I had to tighten those bolts, obviously, to hold this in place. And it kept sliding out. Now, I didn't tighten it the full way, obviously, because I'm trying to wiggle things in there. But my goal was to at least hold it in place so that it doesn't... And it kept sliding down. I am not okay with that in the slightest. Really not okay. So if you're considering purchasing this very kit, this would be a very significant concern that I would raise in acquisition of thereof. Considering all the effort that it takes to deal with this, considering that even the threads on the bolts and like that lock washer over there and everything like that is of a abnormal size. This thing I'm talking about, like those over there, that is starting to prove itself to be a little bit more, well, or maybe a lot more trouble than it's actually worth. Nonetheless, my goal is to come back to it tomorrow and hopefully get this whole thing secured and tightened and this and that and the third. Alright, well, it looks like we had a rainy day and rainy night. This weird cold spell that we're getting. So just a couple of things. Woke up this morning to start working on this with anticipation of going full steam. Obviously, everything being wet doesn't quite. In any event, so one thing that I'm discovering so far is the way this camper shell is designed. It's probably not universal thickness of anything. So what I'm finding is, as I'm tightening the bolts over there in the nuts and everything, so the front ones are actually pretty, I think it's like 4 threads sticking out. The back ones are completely different. So this, if you notice, it's completely different. So on this one, the back one is sticking out a lot further. This one is barely. On that one, it's reversed. Another thing that I'm finding is, because of how it sits, I really wish this thing was shorter. That way that piece would be sitting like here, like it is there, but it's not. So what I'm finding is I'm tightening. Obviously this is resting against camper shell. And I'm not gonna tighten it further, but just thought to point out, if you notice, there's just a teeny tiny little space in there. I would very much have preferred there to be some sort of underlayment, but whatever. It looks like there's I don't know how to describe it. Probably because this is resting on the metal pieces over there, that the gap is just bigger. But in any event, my goal is to start working from the top to the bottom, keeping everything loose that's further down the this pipeline, so to speak, and eventually get to putting the screws in and everything. Alright, so here's the progress so far. I am done up on top, technically speaking. Over here, the nuts that are over there, I threaded them back in by hand, and then stuck a 19 millimeter wrench to tighten them on this end. Also hand tightened these guys over here that are holding the entire contraption together. Hand tightened these over there, talking about that bolt over there. The next thing that I want to do is pre-drill holes, talking about those, so that I could then stick self-tappers in there, using a drill bit that's less in size, just to poke a hole, make the whole process easier. My goal is to use an impact wrench and actually tighten these. It still doesn't sit well with me in the slightest, that there's absolutely no way to hold anything. Like, I'm just honestly flabbergasted. This is such a huge oversight on their part. Now, granted, the way this works is, here, let me pan around this way. The way this works is that this mechanism over here, as you see with the teeth and everything, it clamps onto the pipe and it holds the pipe really tight. Like whether it's here or whether it's like there-ish, right? So the way that works is you interlock two, like this piece over here isn't just that. This piece actually starts here, and that piece actually starts here. So they interlock into each other, and then when you tighten the bolts, whether it's here or over there, it actually grabs and holds on for dear life. But still, I would very much like to have preferred, in addition to all of this, to have something that stabilizes it like that. And what I mean by that is like this. Anyways, my goal is to pre-drill some holes and put some self-tappers next. You know, I'm starting to get really annoyed with this Milford setup. Mind you, this is a typical product that's not sold in the United States, but I do have to shed light on the good and the bad. So in the previous clip I've talked about pre-drilling the holes. Okay, great, good people. These is what they provide in the kit. Okay, this is what happens when you put it in the hole. I mean, honestly, like, this is a pre-drilled hole. What in the actual hell? A self-tapping screw theoretically should really drill its own hole. What low quality garbage hardware did they include? I mean, this is just stupid. Alright, so a bit of a progress. Mercifully, the rest of the self-tapping screws went in nice. Yeah. You know what, like, if you go to a fast food restaurant and you look up on the display over there somewhere, right, and you see all those delicious burgers and whatever, and then you get that crap in the box and it doesn't look anything like that what's on the picture. That's the vibe that I'm getting. Like, to me it looks, and I know everybody is like hammering on Harbor Freight tools here in the United States, it kind of looks like something that you would find there, if you know what I mean. You know, for a pre-drilled hole, a tap-in screw should theoretically go in really smooth. At the lowest setting, just gently trying to get it in the hole, broke immediately. So, but mercifully everything else is good. So the things are tightened. I've used an impact wrench on that and this. So everything is sitting there pretty. So my next phase with the whole thing, I need to wait for my rack to dry up a little bit because of the rain and everything, and sprinkle some nylock or whatever it's called, thread lock on top of the threads there, because that's where it's most important. You know, with the rooftop tent going there, there's really no way to other than removing the rooftop tent itself off the rack. So had to, you know, re-drill the hole to get the screw out of there. Tried to use a completely different tap-in screw. That didn't work. Went back to just re-drilling the hole and all that stuff. So thread lock, and I believe at least this portion, theoretically speaking, should be complete. The next phase would be to install the rooftop tent, I think. maybe. So I don't know. I'm somewhat in a state of confusion. You know what? Like this whole thing, this over here, started as a idea / order November 1, 2024. Right now it's January 10 or so, 2025. Between the first shipment being lost, the second one, they still haven't provided me tracking. I reached out to Milford. I'm like, what the heck? It's already at my door. Some guy said he was gonna look into it. Anyways, at this point, finally, after 2.5 months, it's actually installed. So I'm gonna go grab a quick bite and then think about what I want to do next, other than the thread locker. So thread locker, obviously comes in multiple varieties. This one is actually removable. I could use a red one, which requires heat to remove, but conceivably, in case I ever need to remove this, I don't want to be causing more damage. In my view, I think this is going to stay, unless like this really doesn't work. Because if it doesn't, then we're gonna have a whole set of other problems going on. But nonetheless, this portion is done. So I took my little leaf blower up here on the roof, blew the moisture out, and added thread lock on top, with intent that it's just going to secure the very top threads and percolate down a little bit. There's a lock-in nut in there. There's a lock-in washer in there. There's another lock-in nut. So this is more to like quadruple make sure that everything is good. But all in all, at least this portion over here is complete. So the concern for the next part of this exercise is I fully anticipate that once I put the rooftop tent, the rails are going to be probably, I'm talking about the underside ones, are going to be probably somewhere between this and that, probably around like this hole over there. So my goal in finding the right tools at Harbor Freight was to get something long, and the longest ratchet that I found was I think about 14 inches or so. But even more importantly, what I've learned through my research is that a typical ratchet, the one that goes like this, has something called an arc. It's the radius between every single click. And so when I was standing there at the store, I'm like, what the heck is that? And then I tried them out. So the long one that I got doesn't take the 5-degree arc that it normally takes to click between each teeth. It just goes click, 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 which is even better, because that way I'll be able to secure the things by sticking my hand right there somewhere. But we'll get to that point eventually. For time being, time to grab a quick bite and just kind of reconvene a little bit later. Steps 2, very important. This is my little leaf blower. This is by Bauer from Harbor Freight, but they also make it in different brands as well. And again, Harbor Freight, this is thread lock blue. So I just had an opportunity to measure the rails on a rooftop tent, and here's what I've measured. The way the rails are sitting is they're going to be using this over here, and then this over here, and same thing on that side and that side over there, which means we're cooking with oil. And The distance between the rail and the outside of the rooftop tent is like 13 inches. This over here is way less than 13, which is also good because my range is about 14 inches to the very tippy top. So it means that the bolt presumably is going to go like right there, and I'm gonna have an opportunity to slide my wrench in and just to tighten it, which is good.